Welcome back to The Beam. If you're still joining us, or you're just joining us rather, I'm still here with Mr. Samson Itodo, and we're still looking at the elections in the US and what we can really gain from that election. Thank you for standing by, Mr. Itodo. Quickly, let's get into it.
Thank you.
The learning curve, the learning process. I think that's a major thing here. What really is at stake when it comes to Nigeria? I mean, why is this election very significant when it comes to Nigeria? And in what ways can this, shape the polity here in our own country?
Well, I think this election is important for Nigeria and Africa for a plethora of reasons. The first one is that the US and Nigeria have long-standing, relationships. If you look at some aspects of our democratic system, it's adopted from UN, including our presidential system of government. But I think when you look at issues relating to trade, there is the Africa Growth Opportunities Act, AGOA, which the Biden administration have prioritized. And what it simply does is it provides access, duty-free access for African businesses to access the US market. And so if you, depending on the outcome of this election, it is important that, Nigeria and Africa is able to access US markets, and there has to be opportunities for us to market and sell some of our products, in the US market without, any form of restrictions or high tax rates or duties that Nigerians are forced to pay. Because when you look across board, the AGOA is such a welcome, and it provides a unique opportunity for Nigeria to advance its economic agenda. The second is we have relationship relating to security, and I won't go into that. But if you think about the lessons to be learned, I think there are three main lessons in the pre-election period. The first major lesson to learn from the US elections is that there is no system, there is no democratic system, no matter how advanced, that is insulated from setbacks, shocks, and stress. Because what we have seen, in the pre-election period, we've seen at least isolated cases of ballot box destruction in places like Washington State and Oregon. We have that isolated case. You have cases where the outcome of the election is being questioned even before the day of the election. And what it simply tells all those who are looking up to US is that no system is insulated from stress, that in a democratic system, nations go through stress. It's how they manage those setbacks that is important. Which brings me to the second lesson, which is the need for strong institutions. You need an independent judiciary. You need an independent electoral commission, to deliver credible electoral outcomes. And that's what we have. You learn from, the US so far. The third big lesson is around, the opportunities for protecting the rights to vote. We've talked about early voting. Soonest, there are over 4 million Nigerians of eligible age who are disenfranchised every time we have general elections. Security agencies, INEC officials, media organizations, election observers, medical practitioners who are unable to cast their vote because we don't have early voting. And so we should support the move by the National Assembly to do what? To create and introduce early voting in our system. The fourth lesson is about transparency. You cannot protect democracy. You cannot inspire public confidence if you are not transparent in the way you manage your electoral process, because there's a nexus between trust. Americans trust their electoral system because their system is transparent. They know that when they vote early, even though the votes will be counted afterwards, they know when they vote by proxy or absentee voting, they know that the management body will count their votes and they will not mutilate those figures. They trust the system. And this is why we also in Nigeria need to continue to hold our institutions to greater standards, so that trust, that is an essential and integral part of a successful and a sustainable democracy, will be enhanced.
All right. Finally, before I let you go, what are two key things that the American people can learn from our own process back here in Nigeria and in Africa? What are two key things you think they can learn?
I think that one thing they can learn is when they look to Senegal, when they look to Liberia, when they look to my beloved country, Nigeria, when they look to Botswana, the recent elections, people lost elections, they accepted the outcomes, and where they had grievances, they sought redress to what? Legal means. I think that's something that America can learn from Africa, from Nigeria, can learn democratic resilience. The second thing they can also learn is with respect to turnouts, in elections. I'm so excited to see that there are more women who are showing up to cast their votes, in the US election. But in recent elections from Senegal, from Zambia, from Gambia, you can see how citizens still show up to cast their vote, even though Nigeria recorded very low turnout in the last election. But in the build up to the election, because of the high trust level, a lot of Nigerians showed up to register. So that's something that, the US can also learn from Nigeria.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Samson Todo, for coming on the program. Very insightful views you have there.
Thanks for having me. Always a delight.
All right. Thank you very much.